Good morning, Flow Academates. Today, we're going to talk about a topic that's called Give It Away to Keep It. And we think that this is a really important way to look not just at your business, but also at life.
Yeah, exactly. It's also known as maybe mentorship, although that kind of gives it more of an official name than sometimes we need. And we'll talk more about that as we get into the slides. But the basic principle is that the more you're taking your life experience and just giving it away to other people to be helpful to them, there's a tremendous value to you.
You know, it's funny. Let's talk about mentorship, but I'll say what's interesting in business in general is people believe that they really need to keep all of their ideas proprietary and they need to keep it to themselves. And if you let it go and you share what you know with people, not only are they going to be more successful, but you are going to be more successful because people realize that you're willing to share. So what is a mentor? A mentor.
Well, actually, Kevin, if I could just talk a little bit more about that, because it's such an important point. It is a mentality of scarcity when you're trying to keep all your great ideas to yourself because you're afraid of other people getting them, and then I guess the idea is that these are the people you're maybe competing with or whatever. And so that's it's a flawed idea. And that when we're coming from the place of feeling like there's abundance, that there isn't a limitation of that we can all succeed, we can all do well and contribute by sharing our ideas and our experience is a much better way to live.
And I think that takes us into this whole idea of mentorship, because the idea of being a mentor to somebody is to really open yourself up to them and share with them and help guide them in a way that usually is the way you are approaching business yourself. So there are two sorts of mentors that we're going to talk about today. The first one is active mentor. And an active mentor is somebody who is purposefully becoming a mentor to somebody else. And there's been an agreement between the mentor and the mentee to work together to help improve either in business or as a person, or however that mentor is going to work for you. The next is a passive mentor. And I think we all experience this type of mentorship. This is somebody who is not intentionally being a mentor to anybody, but it's somebody that we look at as somebody that we want to emulate or be like. I know I have a bunch of people in my life that if I were to think about it, they were not actively trying to be a mentor to me. But when I think about somebody who's really changed the way that I approach life or approach business, had a huge impact on the way that I did it. Like I said, they weren't doing it on purpose. They were doing it just in the way that they were. And that's a passive mentor. And they can be some of the most important people in our lives. So this brings up the question, who are your mentors? Personally, I have somebody who I worked with when I was doing duty free for airlines, and she was my boss, but she treated me in such a way that I was kind of like her student or her friend, obviously, but really helped to guide me through the idea of business. And when I look at the way my business acumen has changed and grown throughout my life, I think about Colleen, because she really is the one that helped me get there. Then there are other people in our lives that are mentors, as I mentioned it before, who had no intention of mentoring you, but you look at them as somebody that you want to emulate. And those mentors can be just as important. So why be a mentor? Rick, why should we be mentors?
Well, I think that this is kind of what we were talking about at the very beginning. You know, there's this idea that I shouldn't say there's this idea. I think it's easy to be kind of self-consumed with whatever it is that we're trying to do and our focus, and maybe not be purposeful or have the time or feel like you have the time to be helpful to somebody else. But in fact, when you take the time to be helpful to other people, what it does for you is so much bigger than what you're doing kind of on your own. And so there's kind of an intrinsic feel good that comes from genuinely being able to be helpful to somebody, make a difference in their lives. There's something internally that happens when you are in that position. And it's really quite an honor, actually, to be able to mentor somebody and for them to kind of light up and be and have that like, oh man, Thank you. You know, I've felt like that, and now I feel like I can feel better. What a great idea! That's really going to make a difference in my life. So that's one of the reasons. I think we're going to talk about some of the others as we go through these slides here.
That's right. And as you mentioned, one of the things that happens is that you don't expect the return, but that's the whole idea of when you give, you get it all back. And that's what makes that exciting something that happens when you mentor other people. So part of this is to lead by example. And a lot of this puts you into a place that the way you are in the world, the way you are with your clients, with other agents, with people around you, everybody is seeing what you do, and it is leading by example. And it's amazing how many times in my life, and probably in your life, you've heard a comment about something that you did, and maybe you didn't even know that person or know that they saw what happened, but it just really makes you realize that everything that we do is sort of under a microscope or visible to everybody. And that's that idea of leading by example and constantly thinking about how you are being perceived as you move through life.
You know, I have a friend, or actually a mentor for me, and one of the things he loves to say is, we're all examples. The question is, are you going to be a good example or a bad example? And so that's one thing to kind of always keep in mind. At least that's what I try and do, is as I'm going through my day, whether it's, you know, maybe getting frustrated in a car, or how I show up at work, or even how I dress, whatever it is, I'm always being an example to somebody about something. The other thing is that when you take on the responsibility of being an example and being purposeful about that, at least for me, I tend to up my own game. In other words, if I'm sitting here and I've got students and mentees and people that are employees, whatever, that are counting on me, it makes everything I do much more important. It keeps me up, you know, in my game. So there's another way that being a mentor is a benefit. Whereas if I don't think anybody cares, or if I'm not being an example to anybody, maybe I'm not as purposeful about being a good example.
That's right. And you kind of hit the nail on the head, because as you're being a mentor to somebody and you're being purposeful and attentive to what you're doing, you also are going to learn and grow. I know that I will be talking to some people that I coach, and I'll be talking about specific things, and they'll bring up ideas of how they are managing things. And I'll think, ooh, I maybe need to consider that as well. So we each grow together as we are going through either coaching with each other, being a mentor, being a mentee. We learn back and forth, which is really important.
Yeah. In fact, I can't tell you how many times I've been kind of, quote unquote, giving advice or helping somebody with a specific situation or circumstance, and then think to myself, Rick, you might want to take that advice yourself, you know?
That's right. That's right. You know, also being a mentor hones your own skills, and it does definitely build confidence and makes you more motivated, because you realize that you are making an impact on somebody. And that can be a really pretty awesome thing to have happen to you. So how do you become an active mentor? And this really it depicts to me what happens. You're just trying to be a regular person, just really doing the best that you can. And people see you as superheroes because you're there to help everybody. And that makes a difference from that person that we talked about in the beginning that holds everything tight and doesn't want to share.
Yeah. And so going back to how it is that you know, there is, and you might feel maybe it's a little presumptuous, but there's always going to be somebody that's coming up from behind you, maybe who is just younger, or, you know, not as experienced in the world, or not as experienced in the real estate world, or whatever, that you potentially could help. And there's nothing wrong with, you know, taking on somebody who you kind of see something about them that you like, or you want to help them succeed, and just, you know, taking them out to coffee and saying, listen, I see what you're doing. I see what you're trying to do, and I'd like to offer my help and my experience. Is that something you're interested in?
That's right. And you do need to, if you are going to become an active mentor to somebody, you do need to be willing to do it. And not all of us are worthy or willing to do that, because it is a commitment. So another way to really figure that out, to try to be a mentor to somebody, is just to pay attention to people around you. And you may run into somebody that seems to be, you know, having a little difficulty, or not quite managing time the way they should, or maybe has a team that you could see a place that you might be able to help out. So paying attention to what's going on around you is a great way to see how you could be an active coach. Now, one of the really important things to do is you can't just assume that somebody wants you to be their coach. So you have to have or ask for permission to do that. And asking for permission sounds like a really, formal way of doing it, but it's just saying, hey, it's like Rick said, hey, I'd love to be able to help you out with this situation or help you out on a regular basis. And not all people are prepared to be to be mentored.
And this goes on a case by case basis too. I love this, the phrase, are you open to a suggestion around this topic or something like that, that opens the door, because a lot of times people they don't want to change. They really don't want to hear what you have to say. Heck, they may not even respect my opinion. And maybe I'm assuming that they do and they don't. So it's really important to get that permission.
That's right. So it's really important that mentors and mentees, you choose to work together. You choose to have this relationship. You choose to respect each other and to interact with each other. So here's the important thing when you are going to formalize a mentorship situation, and this is between the mentee and the mentor. And this also works especially for teams. If you are a team leader or working for a team, there needs to be understanding that we're all working together. And in order to do that, you need to have a common goal, either about something that you're going to work on, the way that you are going to work together, what that's going to look like. And then you have to create a common plan on what that's going to look like. Now, here's one of the most important things that I think a lot of people don't even think about, and it's to determine boundaries. There has to be a set of boundaries that you're working with. If you're a mentee, you can't expect that a mentor is going to do the work for you. And there are certain things that need to be set so that there is respect in both directions for that mentorship.
Yeah, exactly. Like the time of, in the frequency of how you're going to get together, how it is that you're going to communicate with each other on a regular basis, and what's not okay, late calls at night, or, just things that you would, now that's only an example, because maybe that's the greatest time for both of you to actually talk. But the point is that you have some guideline as to, what kind of commitment you're expecting from each other and what that's going to look like. The other thing too is this is a great opportunity for when you talk about how you're going to execute. The daily navigator is super great to fit into. This is obvious, obviously, but to fit into this relationship.
That's right. So what a mentor is not. A mentor is somebody who is not going to really get into your business and to really look at things and say, you shouldn't be doing this or you should be doing that in a way that's not helpful to the mentee. It's not somebody that really gets into somebody's business beyond what you have contracted to work out together.
Yeah, and it's not a bank, it's not a dating service, it's not a marriage counselor. It really should be, going back to the other slide, defined as what is our role and what isn't our role.
So here's an idea for homework. Think about the people in your life that maybe you could be helpful to. And again, it could be the way that a team is managed and who are some players on my team that might need some extra help, and to create that active idea that we are going to work together on this. And when you set that as something that is going to happen, then all of a sudden there becomes acceptance in both directions. So make a short list of those people that you might want to help, but also think about people that are in your lives that you might want to receive help from. And for most of us, in myself as a coach, I have a coach. So the idea of me coaching, I need to be that person on the other end as well. So I also have a coach. And I think it's really important that we become a mentor and a mentee, because it gives us perspective on the way we're approaching things.
Yeah, and I will say though, there is a difference between coaching and mentorship. And I've been coached. I'm currently not coached.
I coach you, Rick.
Kevin coaches me, and I mean, I have, but I don't have a formal relationship. I would actually say Kevin's more of a mentor for me than he is a coach, actually. And so I think part of the difference is the mentor thing is like, I'm not paying Kevin to coach me. He's more of a mentor. And having those kind of relationships that are not tied around specific dollars is different than coaching. So that's the only thing, that's kind of the distinction I would make.
That makes really good sense and is absolutely correct. So what would be the roadblocks?
God, what a great roadblock sign. I slide. I didn't see that going. That's really good.
So some of the roadblocks are not being willing to accept somebody as a coach, or somebody who does not, mentor, or somebody who does not want to be a mentee. So there has to be a mutual agreement between the two people.
I think there can be, if you've never mentored somebody, I definitely think there can be a fear of, well, what if nobody wants me to be their mentor? What if I don't have the right things to say? What would somebody want from me? Like, I'm not good enough to be a mentor. What if they ask me a question I don't have an answer to? These are all kind of anxiety laden, negative predictions that are super common and understandable, but also I would say, don't worry about it. You're not generally going to be asked questions that you don't know. People probably do want what you have if you've reached a certain place in your career, and that you will get the right answers. It's amazing how often I'm asked a question that I can't believe the answers that are coming out of my mouth. And I'm like, I hadn't thought about that, but was my experience, or this is what, led me to that answer. The other thing is, it's totally okay to not know what to do in a circumstance. You're not expected to know all the answers to all the things to all the people. It's being in a place, and sometimes just being willing to listen to people about what their circumstances are. That's a big part of being a mentor as well.